Think you know the samurai? Hollywood sold you a myth of honorable duels under cherry blossoms. But the truth is far more brutal, political, and fascinating. What if I told you the most accurate film was made by a director who lived through war himself? We're slicing through the fiction to find the 12 films that get history terrifyingly right. Number 12, Samurai Rebellion, 1967. This isn't a film about epic battles. It's a slow-burn family tragedy that shows the samurai code's brutal cost better than any other. Director Masaki Kobayashi, a pacifist who despised authoritarian power, uses a domestic dispute to expose the feudal system's soul-crushing mechanics. The story revolves around a retired vassal forced to obey his lord's unjust order to take back a divorced daughter, a move that destroys his family. The wild detail is the legendary Toshiro Mifune, known for his fiery roles, delivers one of his most restrained and devastating performances. His character's quiet desperation as his world collapses from the inside out is a masterclass in suppressed fury. Critics hail it as a flawless dissection of duty versus humanity. The film's power lies in its stifling interiors and the terrifying truth that a samurai's greatest enemy was often the lord he was sworn to obey. It presents Bushido not as a path of glory, but as a bureaucratic chainsaw for cutting down personal happiness. Every frame is meticulously designed to convey the claustrophobia of social obligation. The architecture itself becomes a character, with shoji screens and narrow corridors symbolizing the inescapable confines of the code. The film's historical accuracy is not found on battlefields, but in the intricate web of gift-giving, polite conversation, and unspoken threats that define samurai household politics. Kobayashi's own experiences as a soldier who refused promotion in defiance of Imperial Japanese army hierarchy bleed into every scene, making his critique of blind obedience profoundly personal. The climactic confrontation is a masterstroke of historical realism, abandoning large-scale warfare for a small, desperate stand within a family compound, highlighting how these personal rebellions were the true cracks in the feudal foundation. The musical score, often just the eerie silence of the house or the sound of wind, reinforces the isolation of its protagonists. It is a film that understands history is often made in quiet rooms, filled with unbearable tension, not on roaring battlefields. Number 11, Kagemusha, 1980. Akira Kurosawa's late-career epic is a grand, hallucinatory lesson on the illusion of power. After decades of making samurai legends, Kurosawa turned his eye to the gritty reality of clan politics in the Sengoku period. The plot follows a petty thief forced to impersonate a dead warlord, revealing that leadership is merely a performance. The memorable story here is the production itself. Kurosawa painted entire armies' banners by hand. When he couldn't secure funding, a desperate act of artistry that led to George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola convincing Fox to finance the film. This blend of monumental battle scenes and intimate character study showcases the sheer theatricality of war. Critics were divided on its coldness, but united on its visual majesty. The film bankrupted Kurosawa's studio, yet stands as a profound statement on identity. It argues that in war, the symbol is more important than the man, a historically resonant idea in an era built on clan crests and strategic marriages. The film's dedication to period detail is staggering, from the specific heraldry of the Takeda clan to the use of Portuguese firearms, which were changing the nature of warfare. Kurosawa meticulously recreates the famous Battle of Nagashino, showcasing the tragic feudal charges of the Takeda cavalry against entrenched gun lines, a pivotal historical moment that signaled the end of traditional samurai combat. The Kagemusha, or Shadow Warrior, is more than a plot device. He is a metaphor for the constructed nature of feudal authority itself. The warlord Shingen's body is preserved in a vat of salt to hide his death, a bizarre but historically plausible detail that underscores the lengths to which clans went to maintain the illusion of stability. The film's dream sequences, where the imposter is haunted by the real lord in a spectral glowing tent, delve into the psychological cost of this deception. Kurosawa uses color like a painter, with the Takeda's crimson banners creating rivers of blood across the screen, visualizing the clan's fate. This is not a celebratory war film. It is a mournful dirge for a way of life consumed by its own pageantry and the cold advance of technology. Number 10. Gohatto, 1999. Throw out everything you think about samurai camaraderie. Nagisa Oshima's final film is a provocative, icy look at the clandestine world of the Shinsengumi, the notorious policing force of the late shogunate. It focuses on the disruptive arrival of a beautiful, skilled young recruit and the violent homoerotic tensions that unravel discipline. This film is historically fearless, depicting the group's infamous strict code not as noble, but as a fragile mask over human desire and jealousy. The wild detail is that Oshima based the central tension on real historical speculation about certain Shinsengumi members, using it to explore conformity and chaos. The reaction was predictably controversial, with some praising its boldness and others dismissing it as scandalous. But its accuracy lies in its atmosphere of paranoia and the precise depiction of the Shinsengumi's internal regulations. It shows a brotherhood on the brink of collapse, not from enemy swords, but from the inconvenient truths of human nature, making it a uniquely psychological entry in the genre. Oshima, ever the iconoclast, frames the story as a procedural investigation, with the captains trying to maintain order as their world fractures. The film captures the precise historical moment of 1865 Kyoto, a city simmering with political intrigue and fear of Western incursion. The Shinsengumi's headquarters are not grand castles but cramped, dusty quarters, reflecting their status as outsiders even within the shogunate's structure. The film's most historically insightful aspect is its portrayal of the code of Kyokaku, or chivalrous conduct, which often clashed with the official Bushido, creating a volatile mix of formal law and personal honor. The sword fights are not elegant displays, but quick, brutal, and efficient executions, true to the Shinsengumi's reputation as street fighters. Oshima's clinical direction refuses to romanticize, presenting the relationships with a detached, almost anthropological eye. The film serves as a critique of any idealized warrior culture, suggesting that beneath the strictest rules lies a cauldron of repressed emotions that can be far more destructive than any enemy. It is a difficult, essential film that uses a controversial lens to achieve a stark historical truth about isolation and desire within a closed, militaristic system. Number 9. The Hidden Blade, 2004. Yoji Yamada dedicated his career to gentle comedies before delivering a trilogy of samurai films that are historical documents dressed as quiet dramas. This second entry is a meticulous recreation of the late Edo period's suffocating social stratification. It follows a low-ranking samurai, Munezo Kadagiri, who is torn between his duty and his heart when the woman he loves is sold into marriage and his friend rebels against corrupt clan officials. Yamada's genius is in the details, the gritty process of firing a matchlock rifle, the economic anxiety of a warrior class with no war to fight, and the humble, lived-in sets. The film's most accurate element is its portrayal of Bushido as a daily practice of minor etiquette and unbearable patience, not dramatic swordplay. Critics celebrated its humane, grounded approach. It dismantles the romantic samurai image to show a man navigating a world where the true test is not dying well, but living correctly under impossible rules. The combat, when it comes, is brief, awkward, and brutally efficient. Yamada's camera lingers on the texture of everyday life, the peeling paint of a gate, the careful preparation of a meal, the stiff formality of a social call. These are the true rituals of a mid-level samurai's existence. The film expertly depicts the rigid class barriers that prevented a samurai from marrying a peasant, a central conflict that is not just romantic, but profoundly political. The historical research shines in the depiction of clan politics, where promotions and demotions are decided by whispers and favoritism, not battlefield merit. The titular hidden blade is not just a weapon, but a metaphor for the suppressed skills and emotions a samurai must conceal to survive in a time of enforced peace. The film's climax, a duel in a near-empty dojo, is a masterclass in tension, fought not with rage but with a sad professional resolve. The sound design is notably sparse, making every shuffle of a foot on the wooden floor, every click of a rifle mechanism, feel monumentally significant. This is history from the ground up, telling the story of an era through the calloused hands and weary eyes of a man who is, above all, a bureaucrat with a sword. Number 8. Sword of the Beast, 1965. This is the dirty, desperate underbelly of the samurai era. Directed by Hideo Gosha, a master of the outsider's perspective, it follows a low-level samurai, Genosuke, who flees into the mountains after being used as a pawn in a political assassination. There, he becomes a wild man, clashing with desperate prospectors and a vengeful husband and wife. This film strips away all pageantry to show the period's raw survivalism. The historical value is in its depiction of the non-elite, the masterless ronin, the impoverished farmers, and the gold hunters who operated outside the strict class system. A wild cinematic detail is its frenetic, chaotic camera work during fight scenes, making violence feel exhausting and unglamorous. It was a commercial failure, but is now a cult classic for its nihilistic energy. The film argues that when the system betrays you, honor is a luxury, and the only code left is that of the beast. It's a vital correction to the polished samurai ideal. Gosha presents the wilderness as a chaotic, amoral space that exposes the fragility of civilization's rules. The gold rush subplot is historically pertinent, showing how the lure of wealth could temporarily upend the rigid social order, drawing samurai, peasants, and outlaws into a violent free-for-all. The film's visual style is gritty and unforgiving, with muddy landscapes and harsh sunlight replacing the pristine interiors of castle dramas. Genosuke's transformation is physical and visceral. He sheds his samurai identity along with his clean clothes, becoming a scarred animal fighting for survival. The supporting characters are equally complex, driven by base motives of greed, revenge, and survival, rather than lofty ideals. The film's historical accuracy lies in its portrayal of the Edo period's underclass, the people for whom the samurai code was an irrelevant abstraction. It shows a Japan where loyalty is bought and sold, and where the government's control frayed at the edges of society. The final confrontations are not for honor or country, but for personal freedom and a fleeting chance at a new life. Sword of the Beast is a crucial, revisionist work that injects the genre with a dose of harsh social realism, reminding us that for every lord in a castle, there were 100 men in the dirt, just trying to live. Number 7. The Twilight Samurai, 2002. Yoji Yamada's first and most beloved samurai film is a revolutionary act of historical empathy. It follows Seibei Iguchi, a low-ranking widowed samurai who spends his days as a clerk and his nights caring for his daughters and senile mother, smelling of the salted fish he packages for extra income. This is the ultimate anti-Seven samurai. The accuracy is breathtaking. The focus on poverty, the importance of domestic chores, the social shame of his status, and the terrifying reality of a duel for a man who never wanted to draw his sword. The film was a massive critical and commercial hit in Japan, winning awards because it connected with a universal story of family and duty. Its wild truth is in the climactic duel, which is shot not as a dance, but as a terrifying, messy, and ultimately sad encounter between two men trapped by circumstance. It redefined the genre by proving that the most historically resonant stories aren't about great lords, but about the small people crushed by the weight of their era. Yamada's background in the Torisan series about a kind-hearted vagabond informs his deeply compassionate gaze. The film is a meticulous record of lower samurai domesticity. The thatched roof that needs repairing, the careful budgeting of rice, the gentle rituals of bathing children. The historical context of the late Edo period, as the samurai class became financially strained and socially obsolete, is the silent engine of the entire plot. Seibei's love for his childhood friend, Tomoe, is thwarted not by villains, but by the simple crushing economics of his life. The film's most powerful statement is that for men like Seibei, Bushido meant providing for your family and fulfilling your petty clerical duties with quiet dignity, a form of heroism utterly absent from Chanbara spectacles. The brief moments of violence are shocking in their intrusion into this carefully maintained, fragile world. Hiroyuki Sanada's performance is a masterpiece of understatement, his face etched with the quiet exhaustion of a good man being slowly worn down. The Twilight Samurai did not just add a new film to the genre, it permanently expanded the genre's possibilities, proving that historical fidelity could be measured in the weight of a father's sigh as much as in the cut of his armor. Number 6. 13. Assassins, 2010. Takashi Miike's ferocious remake is a masterclass in building historical context before unleashing pure cinematic chaos. The film is set in the peaceful but corrupt late Edo period and is loosely based on a real 19th century plot. It follows a group of samurai recruited to assassinate a sadistic lord, Naritsugu, whose cruel actions threaten to plunge the nation into war. The film's historical power is in its first half, a meticulous procedural showing the political maneuvering, the recruitment of broken warriors, and the sober planning of a suicide mission. The wild, memorable detail is the extended 40-minute final battle in a booby-trapped town, a relentless spectacle of tactical warfare that feels both thrilling and exhaustingly real. Critics praised its balance of intellect and action, while heightened its portrayal of the samurai's final, desperate act to uphold a moral code against a broken system captures the end of an era anxiety perfectly. It shows the Bushido spirit as a last, violent gasp against impending oblivion. Miike, known for his extreme cinema, exercises remarkable restraint in the setup, establishing the historical stakes with clarity. The film accurately depicts the political deadlock of the shogunate in its final years, where challenging a lord was virtually impossible, forcing righteous men to operate outside the law. The character of Naritsugu is a terrifying representation of the era's rotten core, a product of absolute privilege completely divorced from humanity. The assembling of the team is a tour through the margins of the samurai world, a pragmatic strategist, a cynical hunter, a dedicated student, each representing a different response to a decaying society. The preparation of the town, Torigo, as a killing zone is shown in practical, detail-oriented sequences that emphasize the tactical ingenuity of the period. The final battle, while epic, maintains a sense of gritty realism within its framework. Warriors become exhausted, plans go awry, and death is sudden and inglorious. The film's genius is in making this spectacular finale feel like the inevitable, bloody conclusion to the quiet political corruption established at the start. It serves as a metaphor for the violent birth of modern Japan from the corpse of the feudal system, making it historically insightful as well as viscerally thrilling. Number 5. Heaven and Earth, 1990. Forget everything you know about samurai pageantry. This film, the most expensive Japanese production of its time, is a sweeping historical war epic based on the real-life conflict between 16th century warlords Takeda Katsuyori and Uesugi Kenshin. Director Haruki Kadokawa prioritized historical accuracy above all, consulting experts and building full-scale period castles. The film is famous for its staggering large-scale battle sequences, involving thousands of extras that depict the chaos, tactics, and sheer bloody slog of Sengoku-era warfare. Cavalry charges, spear walls, and gun lines clash with a tangible, brutal weight. The wild fact is its dedication to realism extended to using actual antique armor from museums. While criticized for a thinner plot, its value as a living history document is unmatched. It captures the scale, sound, and terrifying grandeur of period combat like no other film, showing the samurai not as lone wolves, but as cogs in a vast grinding military machine. It's a breathtaking visual textbook. The film focuses on the famous Battle of Kawanakajima, a series of clashes renowned for its complex strategies. Kadokawa avoids romantic subplots to concentrate almost entirely on the logistics and execution of war. We see the armies mobilizing, the scouts gathering intelligence, the nervous waiting in camp, elements almost always glossed over in other films. The battle scenes are shot with wide, sweeping crane shots that allow the viewer to comprehend the geography and movement of entire armies, a feat rarely attempted. The use of authentic period tactics, like the Takeda cavalry's famous Furinkazan formation, is meticulously recreated. The sound design is a cacophony of screaming men, thundering hooves, clashing metal, and the sporadic crack of early firearms, creating an immersive, overwhelming experience. The film does not shy away from the aftermath, showing fields littered with the dead and the wounded, a sobering counterpoint to the glory of the charge. While character development is minimal, the film's protagonist is history itself. It stands as a monument to a specific pivotal moment in Japan's Civil War period, made with an almost archaeological fervor for accurate detail. For anyone wanting to understand the sheer scale and organized chaos of Sengoku warfare, Heaven and Earth remains the indispensable, unparalleled source. Number 4. Harakiri, 1962. Masaki Kobayashi's searing masterpiece is less a film and more a systematic dismantling of the samurai myth. Set in the early 17th century, when peace left many warriors masterless and destitute, it follows Ronin Hanshiro Tsugumo as he arrives at a prosperous clan's estate, requesting to commit ritual suicide in their courtyard. What unfolds is a flashback-driven exposé of the clan's hypocrisy and cruelty. The historical accuracy is forensic in its depiction of seppuku ritual, clan politics, and the devastating economic reality of the Ronin. The wild, unforgettable story is the film's central revelation involving bamboo swords, a moment of such shocking brutality and poetic justice that it forever changes how you view the era. The critical reception was initially mixed in Japan for its anti-authoritarian message, but is now universally considered one of the greatest films ever made. It's a furious, formal indictment of an institution that valued ceremony over human life, making it the most philosophically accurate samurai film in existence. Kobayashi employs a stark, beautiful black and white cinematography that frames the samurai world as a series of rigid, oppressive compositions. The Ai clan's mansion is a fortress of cold, imposing emptiness, symbolizing the hollowness of their rigid code. The film is structured like a courtroom drama, with Hanshiro methodically presenting his evidence against the clan's so-called honor. The flashbacks reveal the everyday tragedy of the period: skilled warriors reduced to selling their swords, fathers unable to provide medicine for sick children, a generation cast adrift by the peace their fathers fought to achieve. The depiction of the seppuku ritual itself is unflinching and procedural, stripping it of any romanticism and presenting it as a grim, bureaucratic form of execution. The clan's retainers are not cartoon villains, but men, trapped in their own system, unable to see their own moral decay. Tatsuya Nakadai's performance as Hanshiro is a volcano of controlled rage, his eyes conveying a lifetime of disappointment and simmering fury. Harakiri is ultimately about the stories we tell to justify power and the human cost of those lies. It doesn't just show history, it interrogates it, demanding the viewer question the very foundations of the romanticized samurai narrative. Its message is timeless, and its historical critique is devastatingly precise. Number 3. Samurai. Musashi Miyamoto, 1954. Hiroshi Inagaki's Oscar-winning film is the definitive biographical take on Japan's most legendary swordsman, Miyamoto Musashi. While later films mythologize him, this first part of a trilogy focuses on his brutal origins as the wild youth Takezo, who joins a losing army at the Battle of Sekigahara. The historical fidelity here is exceptional. From the chaotic, muddy hell of Sekigahara to his subsequent journey as a hunted beast. It shows his transformation not as a destined path, but as a hard-earned education through suffering and introspection. The memorable detail is Toshiro Mifune's feral, physical performance, capturing the untamed spirit of the historical Musashi before philosophy tempered him. Critics at the time praised its epic scale and human heart. The film avoids fantasy, grounding Musashi's legendary status in a believable, gritty journey of self-discovery, setting the standard for the biographical jidaigeki. It understands that a legend begins with a desperate, flawed man. The Battle of Sekigahara is rendered not as a glorious field of honor, but as a rain-soaked, chaotic slaughter, where men slip in the mud and die for causes they barely understand. Takezo's survival instinct is pure animalism, a far cry from the disciplined warrior he will become. The film spends significant time on his period of capture and imprisonment in Himeji Castle, where he is forced to confront his own brutality through the study of classic texts provided by a compassionate monk. This intellectual awakening is shown as a painful, gradual process. The film also highlights the importance of the era's martial arts schools and the political patronage they required, providing context for Musashi's later iconoclastic path as a dueling wanderer. The romantic subplot with Otsu is handled with a delicate, tragic realism, showing how personal connections are often the first casualty of a single-minded pursuit of mastery. Inagiki's direction is classical and sweeping, using the full expanse of the toescope frame to capture both the epic landscapes and the intimate moments of turmoil. Samurai. I succeeds because it prioritizes the psychology of its subject over the mythology, presenting Musashi's evolution as a direct, believable response to the violent historical crucible of early Edo Japan. It is a foundational text for understanding how a man becomes a legend, step by bloody, authentic step. Number 2, Ran, 1985. Akira Kurosawa's late career zenith transposes Shakespeare's King Lear to Sengoku-era Japan, and in doing so, creates the most profound statement on the cycle of violence and the collapse of order. While the story is adapted, the historical context is impeccably real. The film showcases the brutal betrayals, the importance of castle defense, the role of gunpowder that ended the samurai's horseback dominance, and the utter devastation of clan warfare. The most memorable detail is the siege of the third castle, a 20-minute sequence of near-silent, apocalyptic violence in bold colors, considered one of the greatest battle scenes ever filmed. It's a vision of hell made from precise historical components. Critics universally declared it a masterpiece. Kurosawa, using his deep knowledge of Japanese art and history, presents the era not as a time of honor, but as a morally barren landscape where ambition consumes everything. Its accuracy is not in specific events, but in capturing the terrifying existential truth of the period's civil wars. Kurosawa drew inspiration from the real-life warlord Motonari Mori, but the film transcends biography to become a panoramic tragedy of power. The costume and armor design is historically grounded yet expressionistic, with each of Lord Hidetora's sons assigned a distinct color that reflects their personality and fate. The use of no theater masks and stylized performances connects the film to classical Japanese artistic traditions, rooting its modern themes in historical aesthetic forms. The tactical use of arquebusiers in the siege is historically precise, showing how gunpowder democratized slaughter and made traditional castle defenses obsolete. Kurosawa's depiction of the samurai is devoid of romance. They are proud, greedy, and ultimately pathetic men, destroyed by their own hunger for dominion. The true protagonist of Ran may be Lady Kaidi, a vortex of vengeance who embodies the cyclical nature of the violence, showing how the crimes of one generation inevitably spawn the monsters of the next. The film's landscapes are breathtakingly beautiful and horrifically scarred by war, a visual representation of the era's paradox. Ran is not a document of what happened, but a profound meditation on why it kept happening. It achieves a poetic universal truth about the Sengoku period that mere factual recounting could never reach, making it one of cinema's ultimate historical statements. Number 1. The Emperor and the General, 1967. The most historically accurate samurai film isn't about a swordsman. It's a dense, talky political chamber piece about the 1868 Boshin War, the conflict that ended the shogunate and restored the emperor. Directed by veteran Masaki Kobayashi, it focuses entirely on the moral and strategic debates between Emperor Meiji and his advisors, particularly the brilliant but ruthless General Saigo Takamori. The film is shot almost entirely in rooms with characters debating surrender, modernization, and the soul of Japan. Its accuracy is relentless, based on actual meeting records and diaries. The wild detail is its even-handedness. It presents the pro-shogunate samurai not as villains, but as tragic loyalists to a dying world. It was a box office failure because it offered no battles, only the agonizing birth of modern Japan through words. Critics now recognize it as a peerless historical document. This film understands that real history is made in quiet rooms by conflicted men, not on battlefields. It earns the top spot by having the courage to be intellectually rigorous, showing that the truest samurai drama was a war of ideas. Kobayashi, the great humanist, refuses to paint anyone as purely heroic or villainous. Emperor Meiji is a young, uncertain figurehead, surrounded by older men with competing visions. Saigo Takamori, who would later lead the doomed Satsuma Rebellion, is portrayed as a complex patriot, fiercely loyal to the imperial cause, but deeply conflicted about the westernization that comes with it. The film meticulously stages the council meetings that decided Japan's fate, from the debate over surrendering Edo Castle to the handling of the French military advisors who supported the shogunate. The tension is palpable, generated solely by conflicting ideologies and the weight of responsibility. The film's visual style is austere and formal, mirroring the rigid protocol of the imperial court. It shows the samurai at their historical endpoint, not swinging swords, but wielding arguments about national destiny, international law, and military technology. The emotional core is the tragic understanding that progress requires the destruction of the very world these men swore to protect. By forgoing all action spectacle, Kobayashi forces the audience to engage with the actual mechanics of historical change. The Emperor and the General is the ultimate demystification of the samurai, revealing them finally as politicians, diplomats, and philosophers grappling with an impossible transition. It is not the most exciting film on this list, but it is, without question, the most truthful, a monumental achievement in historical cinema that respects its audience's intelligence and the profound complexity of the past. So, did your favorite make the cut, or did we just dismantle everything you thought was true? Let me know in the comments which historical truth shocked you the most. But here's the final challenge for you. If true accuracy means showing the samurai as poor, desperate, and politically scheming more than sword fighting, does that actually make them less impressive, or somehow more human and more fascinating? The answer in the comments will tell me who really understands history,